What if everything we think we know about human history is incomplete? Not wrong, just missing something vital. Across the world, there are places that should not exist. Stone temples built before farming. Perfect lines drawn across deserts, visible only from the sky. Massive statues moved without wheels, machines, or written plans. And beneath the ground, and beneath the sea, entire cities quietly waiting. These are not legends. They are real places archaeologists are still struggling to explain. The deeper scientists dig, the stranger the story becomes. Because every discovery answers one question and opens five more we weren't prepared to ask. Who were these people? How did they know what they knew? And why does so much of their knowledge seem to vanish from history? Tonight, we're not chasing wild theories. We're following the evidence and letting the mysteries speak for themselves. Because sometimes the past isn't silent. It's just been buried.
In the quiet hours when the world softens and the mind begins to settle, there's a special kind of story that gently rises from the shadows. Stories not written in ink, but carved in stone, buried beneath drifting sands, or resting beneath centuries of forgotten soil. This first section opens the door to such stories, welcoming the listener into a realm where history breathes slowly and mysteries linger patiently, waiting for someone to notice the subtle patterns they have left behind. Archaeology, at its heart, is a discipline shaped as much by scientific rigor as by a deep, almost spiritual curiosity. It is a field where silence is an archive, where ruins whisper, and where every fragment, no matter how small, holds the possibility of rewriting what we think we know about our past. As we begin our journey, the contrast between what is known and what remains elusive forms the foundation of the narrative. Human history is often presented as a timeline, neat, orderly, progressing step by step. But when we look closer, this timeline begins to blur around the edges. Gaps appear, contradictions rise, and moments emerge that challenge our assumptions. How did ancient builders carve impossibly precise structures without modern tools? Why do cultures separated by oceans share symbols, architectural styles, and cosmological stories? Why do some cities vanish suddenly? And why do entire civilizations leave behind no written record at all? These questions exist at the crossroads of curiosity and uncertainty, gently inviting us deeper into the unknown. This section sets a slow, calm tone, mirroring the soothing rhythm characteristic of nighttime documentaries, where facts unfold like distant echoes and mysteries drift in like fog over forgotten ruins. Each archaeological discovery is framed not as a dramatic revelation, but as a quiet reminder that history is far more complex than the linear story taught in textbooks. Even familiar artifacts carry secrets when examined under the right light. A chisel mark on stone may reveal a method thought impossible for its time. A shard of pottery may expose trade routes stretching farther than imagined. A burial site may overturn an entire belief system about who these people were and how they lived. The beauty of archaeology lies in how it blurs the boundaries between certainty and speculation. Scientists may recover physical evidence, skeletal remains, tools, structures, but interpreting them requires a kind of respectful imagination. Unlike modern investigations where eyewitnesses can clarify events, the ancient world speaks only through remnants. Every stone circle, sunken ruin, or undeciphered script becomes a puzzle with missing pieces. And yet, these missing pieces do not weaken the story. Instead, they add depth, inviting us to think, wonder, and sometimes dream. It is within these quiet spaces, between evidence and interpretation, that some of the most compelling mysteries reside. In this opening section, the viewers are invited to become quiet observers walking through the thresholds of time. The imagery is soft and immersive. Abandoned temples where wind carries the echoes of forgotten rituals. Dense jungles reclaiming the footprints of vanished empires. Desert plains holding geometric lines visible only from the sky, and watery depths preserving cities that once thrived on land. The world is filled with sites that challenge our understanding, some well-known, others barely recognized, and each of them offers a window into a past that is both familiar and alien. As modern humans, we live in a world overflowing with information, where answers seem only a search away. Yet archaeology humbles us with its silences. For every mystery solved, new questions rise. A discovery thought to be definitive may later reveal layers of deeper complexity. And sometimes, the greatest revelations emerge not from the artifacts themselves, but from the realization that our ancestors were far more innovative, connected, and spiritually sophisticated than we often assume. The contrast between their capabilities and the limitations we project onto them becomes one of the central themes of this documentary. The beginning of our journey emphasizes that this exploration is not about proving one theory right or dismissing another. Instead, it is about understanding the delicate harmony between evidence and ambiguity. Even today, with cutting-edge tools, satellite imaging, LiDAR scanning, DNA analysis, some mysteries resist resolution. And perhaps they are meant to. After all, mystery gives history its breadth, its character, its poetic depth. A world without unanswered questions would feel strangely empty. Throughout this section, there's an intentional softness, a guiding hand that leads the audience from the comfort of the present into the vast, dimly lit corridors of the ancient past. It encourages relaxation rather than urgency, curiosity rather than conclusion. Each archaeological mystery we will explore is introduced subtly, not by listing their names, but by gently hinting at the landscapes and enigmas that await. This maintains anticipation without overwhelming the listener with detail too early. The journey ahead will move from towering stone pillars older than cities themselves to desert drawings visible only from the heavens, from isolated islands where colossal figures stand watch to submerged cities where myth and memory intertwine. As this section closes, the theme becomes clear. History is not a solved puzzle, but a living, evolving story. What we know represents only a sliver of what once was. Beneath our feet, beneath oceans, beneath layers of sediment accumulated over millennia, lie answers to questions we have not yet learned to ask. And as we step forward into the next section, toward Göbekli Tepe, one of humanity's oldest and most baffling creations, we begin to peel back the first veil. The introduction gently signals that to understand the unsolved archaeological mysteries of our past, we must start at the beginning, at a place that should not exist according to traditional history, yet does, a puzzle carved from stone that predates even the dawn of agriculture. And so, with curiosity awakened and the mind settled into a calm rhythm, the doorway to ancient enigmas creaks open. The mysteries are waiting. Stepping from the quiet reflection of history into a world both astonishing and perplexing, we arrive at Göbekli Tepe, a site that challenges everything we thought we knew about early human civilization. Nestled atop a limestone ridge in southeastern Turkey, this place is not just old. It is staggeringly ancient, dating back more than 11,000 years, long before the rise of agriculture, cities, or organized states. And yet, it bears the unmistakable mark of deliberate construction, of monumental ambition, of humans capable of shaping the landscape on a scale that seems almost inconceivable for hunter-gatherer societies. From a very first glance, the site presents a quiet contradiction, a sacred space created by people who, by conventional understanding, should not have possessed the organization, tools, or time to build such wonders. Göbekli Tepe is defined by its massive stone pillars, arranged in circles and carved with intricate reliefs of animals and abstract symbols. These carvings are not casual decorations. They're deliberate messages frozen in stone. Lions, snakes, scorpions, and birds gaze eternally across the desert plateau, each figure meticulously etched by hands whose names are lost to time. The scale and sophistication of the work hint at a culture that understood not only physical engineering, but also symbolic storytelling. Scholars continue to debate the purpose of these structures. Were they ceremonial centers, astronomical observatories, or markers of social cohesion. Each hypothesis brings us closer to understanding the people who built them, yet none can fully account for the depth of knowledge embedded in their creation. Perhaps the most confounding mystery lies in the deliberate burial of the site. Around 8000 BCE, after centuries of careful construction, the monumental enclosures were intentionally covered with soil. Why would a culture invest immense effort to hide its sacred spaces? Some suggest ritual closure, a ceremonial act of ending a chapter in human history, while others propose practical reasons, such as preservation. Whatever the explanation, this act itself is a profound statement about human consciousness, a desire to protect, to preserve, and perhaps to communicate with the distant future. Through this silent gesture, the builders of Göbekli Tepe speak across millennia, inviting us to imagine the rituals, the gatherings, and the quiet moments of reverence that once filled these spaces. Walking among the circular enclosures, it is impossible not to feel a sense of scale and coordination that seems almost modern. The stones, some weighing several tons, were quarried and transported without wheels, draft animals, or advanced machinery. How are they moved, lifted, and positioned with such precision? Archaeologists can reconstruct methods, speculate about ropes, wooden rollers, or sheer manpower. Yet the fact remains that the sheer size and alignment of these pillars exceed the expectations of what hunter-gatherers could achieve. This tension, the known limits of technology versus the undeniable reality of their constructions, creates a silent, compelling puzzle. It forces us to reconsider not just the history of architecture, but the capabilities of early humans themselves. Göbekli Tepe also hints at an early understanding of symbolic thinking and perhaps even proto-religious consciousness. The carvings are arranged in deliberate sequences, suggesting narratives or coded messages. Some researchers see signs of seasonal or astronomical observation, tracking solstices or celestial cycles long before formal astronomy was recognized. Others interpret the site as a focal point for social cohesion, a place where scattered groups could gather, share stories, and participate in collective rituals that would strengthen bonds and transmit knowledge. Whatever the truth, the site reflects a sophistication of thought that contrasts sharply with the simplistic image of early humans as purely survival-driven beings. Here, we encounter the quiet brilliance of minds reaching beyond immediate necessity into the realm of the abstract and the eternal. The contrast between what we expect and what Göbekli Tepe delivers is profound. Conventional archaeology places the rise of monumental construction after agriculture, once humans had settled and accumulated surplus resources. Yet at Göbekli Tepe, we see the reverse. Monumental stone circles built by societies that were still largely mobile, hunting and gathering for sustenance. This inversion forces us to rethink the narrative of human progress. Perhaps the impulse to create, to communicate, to consecrate is as fundamental to humanity as the need for food or shelter. Perhaps it was these very sites of wonder and cooperation that encouraged the development of agriculture, writing, and eventually complex civilizations. In this way, Göbekli Tepe is not just a relic of the past. It is a catalyst, a silent architect of the future. The location itself adds another layer to the mystery. Perched high above the surrounding plains, the site commands sweeping views of the horizon, a place both secluded and commanding. From this vantage, one can imagine gatherings under the open sky, firelight flickering across carved pillars as stories, chants, and rituals echoed in the night. The landscape interacts with the construction in subtle ways, guiding movement and framing the experience of those who once walked these enclosures. Even without definitive answers, the spatial choices hint at a culture attuned to both the physical and metaphysical dimensions of their world, a balance between earth and sky, between the tangible and the mysterious. The ongoing research at Göbekli Tepe continues to deepen the intrigue. Every excavation uncovers new carvings, hidden chambers, and traces of human activity that challenge assumptions. Radiocarbon dating, sediment analysis, and meticulous archaeological documentation steadily reveal layers of human intention. Yet every answer uncovers new questions. How did such knowledge spread? Why did these practices vanish so completely, leaving few traces elsewhere? Could there have been cultural exchanges we do not yet understand? Or did these achievements arise independently, a testament to human ingenuity? The uncertainty itself becomes part of the story, an invitation to wander between certainty and imagination, between the tangible past and the whispers of mystery that remain. As we begin to leave Göbekli Tepe behind, the narrative gently opens toward broader patterns in human history. If one society could achieve such monumental feats before conventional agriculture, what does this suggest about the limits of other early civilizations? How many other sites, lost or undiscovered, might similarly rewrite the history we thought we knew? The sense of awe, tempered by quiet reflection, lingers like the dust of the ancient plateau, inviting the listener to continue the journey. From this first extraordinary glimpse into the ingenuity of early humans, we are led naturally into the next mystery, a landscape drawn in lines visible only from the sky, where the desert itself becomes a canvas for human expression. Göbekli Tepe sets the stage not only for curiosity, but for contemplation, framing the delicate balance between fact and enigma that will carry us through the mysteries yet to come. It reminds us that history is not a static ledger, but a living dialogue between what is remembered, what is forgotten, and what quietly waits beneath the soil for someone patient enough to listen. In this space, we realize that the human story is far richer, far stranger, and far more beautiful than we often allow ourselves to imagine. From the ancient stones of Göbekli Tepe, we travel across continents and millennia to the arid plains of southern Peru, where an entirely different kind of human wonder stretches across the desert, the Nazca Lines. Unlike the towering stone pillars of Turkey, these creations are fragile and flat, drawn directly onto the earth itself. Yet, despite their low profile, they are monumental in scale, extending for miles, visible in their entirety only from the air. Walking among them, one is struck by the quiet audacity of their creators. Unlike stone monuments meant to touch the sky, these geoglyphs reach upward through geometry and imagination, bridging the gap between the human hand and the heavens. The Nazca Lines are a tapestry of animals, plants, geometric shapes, and enigmatic humanoid figures etched into the desert floor between 500 BCE and 500 CE. Monkeys curl in spirals, hummingbirds stretch their wings in delicate symmetry, and serpents twist and coil across the barren landscape. The lines themselves are simple trenches, shallow enough to be overlooked at ground level, yet their scale and precision suggest a deliberate understanding of measurement and perspective. Scholars continue to debate how the Nazca people achieved such accuracy without aerial viewpoints. Did they use rudimentary surveying tools, ropes, and stakes? Were their creations inspired by ritual visions, spiritual guidance, or the movement of the stars? Each theory carries its own quiet allure, but none can fully dispel the sense of wonder that arises when viewing these earthbound drawings. The purpose of the Nazca Lines remains elusive, hovering between the realms of fact and speculation. Many archaeologists suggest they were linked to water rituals, essential in a landscape defined by scarcity. Others argue that the geoglyphs functioned as astronomical markers, aligning with solstices, planetary movements, or the rising of particular constellations. In some interpretations, the figures might have served as ceremonial pathways, guiding shamans and participants during sacred rituals. These possibilities highlight the tension between the known and the unknown. We can measure, document, and map the lines, yet their meaning, their heartbeat, remains just beyond reach. The desert, quiet and unchanging, guards the intentions of its ancient artists with serene persistence. Walking among the Nazca Lines today, the landscape seems almost empty, yet it pulses with invisible layers of human presence. The sand and stone preserve the past in fragile clarity, resisting the erosive forces that might otherwise erase them. In this, there is a profound contrast. A creation so delicate it could be worn away by a single storm, yet enduring for centuries because of the unique stability of the desert environment. This juxtaposition mirrors the broader theme of unsolved archaeological mysteries, where fragile human traces withstand the passage of time, offering glimpses into the ingenuity and spirituality of long-vanished cultures. It is as though the Nazca people were aware of their impermanence and sought to leave messages that could survive only under the careful watch of the earth itself. The aerial perspective adds another layer to the mystery. Only when viewed from above does the full magnitude of the geoglyphs emerge. This raises questions about the mindset of their creators. Could they conceive of their designs from the ground, or did they imagine the sky as part of their canvas? The contrast between human scale and cosmic perspective deepens the sense of awe. Each line, each figure, becomes a quiet testament to the ancient human desire to connect with forces greater than ourselves. The desert floor, in this sense, is transformed into a celestial page, where patterns are read not with words, but with eyes lifted toward the heavens. Another striking element is the repetition and variation within the designs. Geometric shapes, trapezoids, straight lines, spirals, intertwine with animal forms, suggesting a language of symbols now largely incomprehensible to modern observers. The presence of both abstract and figurative elements hints at a complex symbolic system, one that may have been understood intuitively by the Nazca people but remains opaque to us. The silence of the desert amplifies this mystery. There are no written records, no explanations left behind, only the stark visual evidence and the haunting questions it inspires. Here, as elsewhere in the world, human imagination is etched into the landscape itself, a permanent dialogue between earth and mind, visible yet unreachable in its entirety. The Nazca lines also invite reflection on the interplay between ritual, environment, and community. Creating these geoglyphs required coordinated effort over decades or centuries, suggesting social structures capable of planning and collaboration. The builders had to balance labor with subsistence, maintaining daily life while dedicating time and energy to the sacred act of drawing on the earth. In this, the lines speak not only to artistic and spiritual impulse, but also to human perseverance and cooperation. They remind us that even in environments seemingly hostile to life, humans have long found ways to leave their mark, to inscribe meaning into the very soil beneath their feet. Yet, the mystery is compounded by what remains invisible. Despite modern technology, including satellite imagery and drones, some geoglyphs remain hidden or only partially understood. Layers of sand, shifting over centuries, obscure portions of the designs. Some lines intersect in ways that suggest layered meanings or sequential rituals, hinting at intentions lost in the passage of time. The viewer is left in a delicate balance between admiration and speculation, guided gently by curiosity rather than conclusive answers. It is precisely this uncertainty that gives the Nazca lines their enduring allure, preserving their quiet power across millennia. As we leave the Nazca plains behind, the narrative begins to connect patterns across the world. The human impulse to create, whether in the permanence of stone at Göbekli Tepe or the ephemeral tracings of sand in Peru, reveals both ingenuity and universality. These landscapes, though separated by thousands of miles and centuries, share a common thread, a desire to transcend the immediate, to communicate something enduring, and to leave a mark that reaches beyond the life of any one individual. The contrast between massive stones and fragile lines, between permanence and impermanence, enriches our understanding of the range and depth of human expression. From the flat desert of southern Peru, the journey now moves to the isolated expanse of Easter Island, where colossal stone figures rise silently from the earth. Unlike the geometric and pictorial expressions of the Nazca lines, these statues embody presence, form, and scale in ways that are equally mysterious. As we transition, the story continues its rhythm of quiet exploration, moving from landscapes that whisper across the desert to islands that gaze across the vast Pacific, each site offering its own invitation to wonder, reflection, and the slow unraveling of history's unsolved mysteries. The Nazca lines leave us with a lingering question, a subtle tension between human creativity and the vast, silent desert that has preserved it. What messages did the ancients intend for us, and how much of their meaning remains forever beyond our reach? In their quiet persistence, they serve as a reminder that mystery is not a failure of understanding, but a window into the enduring spirit of human imagination. From the expansive desert lines of Peru, we journey across the vast Pacific Ocean to one of the most isolated inhabited islands on Earth, Rapa Nui, known to the world as Easter Island. Here, the landscape is punctuated not by lines or circles, but by colossal stone figures, known as moai, standing sentinel over the island in solemn silence. These statues, carved between the 13th and 16th centuries, range in height from a few meters to over 10 meters, some weighing more than 80 tons. Unlike the Nazca lines, which exist as fragile tracings upon the desert, the moai are permanent, tangible embodiments of human ambition and artistry. Yet, despite their imposing presence, they remain shrouded in mystery, inviting quiet reflection on the ingenuity, beliefs, and societal structures of the people who created them. The moai are remarkable not only for their size, but for the technical sophistication required to bring them into existence. Carved primarily from volcanic tuff quarried at Reino Raraku, the island's principal quarry, the statues reveal incredible attention to proportion and detail. Each figure has a distinct facial expression, elongated ears, and subtle variations that suggest individuality, despite a shared aesthetic. The craftsmanship demonstrates not just skill, but an intimate understanding of the material, a dialogue between sculptor and stone. Archaeologists continue to marvel at how these enormous figures were carved with simple tools made of harder volcanic rock, without the benefit of modern machinery. Every chisel mark hints at patience, precision, and a deep commitment to a vision that was as spiritual as it was physical. Perhaps the most enduring question surrounding the moai is how they were transported across the island. The prevailing image of colossal statues, moved by brute force, has given way to more nuanced theories. Some researchers propose that the statues walked, tipped forward in a carefully controlled rocking motion, guided by ropes and human coordination. Others suggest sledges or rollers, coordinated teams, and ritualized processions. Regardless of the method, the transportation of these statues across uneven terrain, sometimes several kilometers from the quarry to their ceremonial platforms, underscores the complexity and organization of Rapa Nui society. The effort reflects not just technical capability, but a profound communal will, uniting labor, ceremony, and belief into a single monumental achievement. The placement of the moai on stone platforms, or ahu, adds further layers of meaning. These ceremonial structures often face inland, watching over the villages and their descendants, while the island's coastline remains behind them. This orientation suggests a protective and spiritual function, linking ancestors to the living community. In this quiet gaze, the moai serve as intermediaries between the human and the divine, bridging the temporal and the eternal. The ahu themselves are engineering marvels, constructed with carefully fitted stones that have withstood earthquakes and centuries of erosion. Together, statue and platform create a harmonious dialogue between human intent, artistry, and landscape, a testament to the depth of cultural expression that can emerge in isolation. The mystery of Easter Island extends beyond the technical challenges of carving and transporting the moai. The societal context that produced these giants is equally enigmatic. Once home to thousands of people, the island experienced dramatic shifts in population, deforestation, and resource management, leading to societal upheaval. How did a small, isolated community organize itself to produce hundreds of monumental statues, while simultaneously managing limited resources. Some scholars suggest that the Moai were part of a system of social signaling, displaying lineage, status, and spiritual authority. Others see them as focal points of ritual and communal identity, acts of devotion that reinforce social cohesion. The tension between human ambition and environmental limitation adds a poignant, contemplative layer to the story, reminding us that achievement and fragility often coexist. Easter Island also presents one of the more profound contrasts in archaeological study: isolation versus connectivity. Despite its remoteness, nearly 3,500 kilometers from the nearest continent, the island's culture developed a sophisticated symbolic system, ceremonial practices, and monumental architecture. This contrast challenges assumptions about cultural development, suggesting that even isolated communities can reach remarkable heights of creativity and organization. The Moai, silent and immovable, embody this paradox. They are at once a product of a small, constrained environment and an assertion of vision that transcends that environment, reaching into the realm of the extraordinary. Another layer of mystery arises from the decline of Moai construction. By the late 17th century, the erection of new statues had ceased, coinciding with social upheaval, resource depletion, and perhaps conflict. Some statues were toppled, leaving fragments of stone scattered across the island. The reasons for this dramatic cultural shift remain partially understood, blending ecological, social, and possibly spiritual factors. The contrast between the grandeur of creation and the abruptness of decline invites reflection on the impermanence of human endeavors, even when etched in stone. The Moai serve as both symbols of achievement and reminders of the delicate balance between human ambition and environmental reality. In addition to physical construction, the Moai carry profound symbolic resonance. Each statue represents more than a human likeness. It embodies ancestral power, spiritual guardianship, and societal memory. In a sense, they are voices in stone, speaking across centuries in silence. This silent communication is a hallmark of many unsolved archaeological mysteries. The ability to convey meaning without words, to create a presence that endures long after the society that produced it has changed. The Moai, like the Nazca Lines and Göbekli Tepe, remind us that human beings have long sought to leave a trace that transcends mortality, a message carried in form, scale, and placement rather than in writing alone. As we prepare to leave Easter Island, the narrative gently expands from the isolated Pacific to the sands of Egypt, where another enigma awaits in the form of the Great Sphinx. The journey moves from the human desire to leave physical forms that command presence to monuments that guard history itself, bridging continents, time periods, and cultures. The Moai exemplify a recurring theme. Humans, regardless of isolation or resources, have sought to mark their existence in ways that endure, to shape the landscape with intention, and to communicate across generations in forms that defy simple explanation. Easter Island leaves us with a quiet lesson in patience and reflection. The Moai, towering yet still, remind us that understanding the past requires more than observation. It requires empathy, imagination, and a willingness to dwell in uncertainty. They stand as sentinels over the mysteries that follow, guiding the mind gently from creation to contemplation, from the tangible presence of stone to the enduring enigmas that history continues to whisper. In this way, the Moai become not only artifacts of human ingenuity, but companions in the broader exploration of history's unsolved mysteries, silently inviting us to consider the depth, ambition, and beauty of civilizations long past. From the windswept cliffs of Easter Island, our journey takes us across continents and millennia to the sun-baked sands of Egypt, where the Great Sphinx of Giza gazes endlessly toward the horizon. This colossal limestone figure, with the body of a lion and the face of a human, has captured the imagination of scholars, travelers, and dreamers for centuries. Standing over 20 meters high and 70 meters long, the Sphinx is a silent sentinel, a guardian of time whose origins and purpose remain shrouded in mystery. Unlike the Moai, which rise from an isolated island landscape, the Sphinx occupies one of the world's most historically documented regions, yet its secrets are no less profound. It embodies the tension between the known and the unknown, offering glimpses of human ambition while concealing layers of unanswered questions. The first and most persistent enigma surrounding the Sphinx is its age. Traditional Egyptology dates its construction to the reign of Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE, linking it to the pyramids and the broader funerary complex of Giza. However, erosion patterns observed by some researchers suggest that the Sphinx may be far older, potentially thousands of years predating Khafre. Water erosion, in particular, hints at exposure to heavy rainfall over extended periods, implying a climate vastly different from the arid conditions of today. If these theories hold true, the Sphinx may represent the work of a civilization older than the dynasties recorded in conventional history, a civilization whose traces have been lost to time. This contrast between the certainty of documented history and the possibility of a far deeper past fuels ongoing debate and fascination. The Sphinx's face itself presents another layer of intrigue. Its features are weathered, yet scholars note the remnants of what might have been a powerful, serene expression. The missing nose, likely destroyed centuries ago, adds to the aura of mystery, prompting speculation about historical iconoclasm, erosion, or other events that altered its appearance. Some suggest that the proportions of the face are idealized, representing a divine or royal archetype rather than a direct likeness. Others see subtle traces of alignment with celestial events, suggesting that the Sphinx may have been intended as more than a guardian of tombs. It may have functioned as a cosmic marker, connecting the earthly and the divine. In this way, the Sphinx becomes a bridge between the tangible achievements of Egyptian builders and the ineffable questions that surround them. The Sphinx is also remarkable for its scale and engineering. Carved from a single outcrop of limestone, it demonstrates a mastery of stonework that rivals other monumental constructions of the ancient world. Its massive paws, elongated body, and precise orientation reflect careful planning and execution, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of geometry, astronomy, and construction techniques. Yet, despite this mastery, many details remain uncertain. The original finishing techniques, the tools used, and the construction methods continue to provoke discussion. This tension between human ingenuity that is evident and mysteries that endure creates a subtle, almost meditative fascination, inviting observers to ponder both the capabilities and intentions of the ancient builders. Beneath the Sphinx, the underground chambers and tunnels add another layer of enigma. Excavations have revealed hidden corridors, cavities, and erosion patterns that suggest the possibility of chambers beneath the surface. Some researchers speculate about burial chambers, repositories of sacred knowledge, or even undiscovered artifacts. The presence of these subterranean spaces adds depth, both literal and metaphorical, to the monument. It reinforces the idea that the Sphinx is more than a statue. It is a nexus of meaning, a layered puzzle that blends geology, architecture, and mythology. Even today, technology such as ground-penetrating radar continues to reveal tantalizing hints, yet definitive answers remain elusive. The symbolism of the Sphinx further enhances its mystique. As a lion-bodied figure with a human head, it embodies a union of strength and intellect, animal instinct and human consciousness. Lions were symbols of power in ancient Egypt, and the combination with a human visage suggests guardianship, wisdom, and divine authority. Positioned to face the rising sun, the Sphinx may also reflect solar reverence, marking cycles of time or serving as a spiritual sentinel over the necropolis of Giza. These symbolic layers intertwine with practical and historical functions, creating a multidimensional monument that communicates across centuries, even without words. The Sphinx's surroundings also contribute to its aura. Set against the backdrop of the pyramids, the desert, and the Nile's distant floodplains, it occupies a liminal space. neither fully part of the urban world nor entirely isolated. The interplay of landscape and monument suggests intentionality in both orientation and placement. The desert winds, the shifting sands, and the play of light at sunrise and sunset create a dynamic environment in which the Sphinx exists, emphasizing the passage of time and the interplay between permanence and impermanence. In this sense, the Sphinx is not static. It interacts with its environment, transforming subtly across days, seasons, and millennia, maintaining a silent dialogue with the world around it. Despite centuries of study, the Sphinx continues to resist complete understanding. Historical records, hieroglyphs, and archaeological evidence provide context, yet each discovery opens new questions. How much of the original structure remains intact beneath layers of restoration and erosion? Did it serve as a religious focal point, a political symbol, or both? Was it aligned with celestial events to convey knowledge lost to modern observers? These questions exemplify the delicate balance of certainty and ambiguity that defines many archaeological mysteries. The Sphinx invites contemplation not through dramatic revelation, but through the steady accumulation of curiosity, reflection, and imagination. As we prepare to move from the sands of Egypt to the submerged mysteries of Dvarka in India, the narrative gently transitions from monuments guarding history on land to those hidden beneath the waves. The Sphinx, like Göbekli Tepe, the Nazca Lines, and the Moai, exemplifies the human desire to create enduring symbols of presence, knowledge, and spirituality. It stands as a reminder that even in places we think we understand, history can conceal depths beyond our perception. Each mystery builds upon the last, weaving a tapestry of human achievement and enigma that stretches across continents and centuries. The Great Sphinx leaves us with a profound sense of patience and humility. It embodies both the power and the limits of human understanding, standing as a guardian not only of pyramids, but of unanswered questions. Its gaze encourages us to slow our pace, to reflect, and to recognize that the past is neither fully accessible nor entirely unknowable. In the silent desert, among the shifting sands and the faint echoes of ancient ceremonies, we are reminded that history is as much about the questions we cannot yet answer as it is about the facts we have uncovered. The Sphinx, in its quiet majesty, invites us to continue our journey, to follow the trail of unsolved mysteries, and to wonder at the extraordinary capabilities of civilizations long past. From the sun-baked sands of Egypt, our journey moves across continents and into the depths of the Arabian Sea, where the sunken city of Dvarka lies hidden beneath waves, shrouded in myth and ancient memory. Mentioned in sacred texts, Dvarka is said to have been the golden city of Krishna, a place of grandeur and divine presence. Archaeological investigations over the past several decades have revealed submerged structures, stone walls, and artifacts along the western coast of India, suggesting that beneath the water, traces of civilization may yet be preserved. The mystery of Dvarka exists at the intersection of legend and tangible evidence, where mythology and archaeology blend into a narrative that invites quiet wonder and careful reflection. The ruins discovered off the coast of Gujarat point to urban planning and construction that were remarkably sophisticated. Stone blocks, walls, and pavements lie beneath the sea, some appearing to be part of a fortified settlement. Divers and sonar mapping reveal rectangular structures, roads, and what may have been docks, suggesting a city adapted to both commerce and defense. Radiocarbon dating of recovered artifacts indicates human activity potentially dating back thousands of years, possibly contemporaneous with other early civilizations. The evidence, though fragmentary, hints at a community with social organization, technical skill, and an awareness of environmental challenges, living along coastlines now submerged beneath the waves. The connection between Dvarka and Hindu mythology adds a rich layer of cultural resonance. Ancient texts describe the city as a thriving kingdom of Krishna, filled with palaces, temples, and intricate urban design. While some scholars approach these accounts skeptically, dismissing them as purely allegorical, the underwater discovery suggests that there may be a kernel of historical truth within the legend. The contrast between myth and archaeology is striking. What was long considered a story of divine imagination may, in fact, contain echoes of human engineering, settlement patterns, and coastal adaptation. This blending of story and fact invites a broader reflection on how memory, myth, and history can intersect, offering clues that endure even when material evidence is submerged or eroded. One of the most compelling aspects of Dvarka lies in its submersion. Rising sea levels, tectonic shifts, and coastal erosion may have contributed to the city's disappearance, leaving only remnants preserved beneath the water. The notion of a once thriving metropolis swallowed by the sea evokes both awe and melancholy. The patterns of inundation remind us that human civilizations are fragile, subject to forces far beyond immediate control. Dvarka, like other lost cities around the world, serves as a meditation on impermanence and resilience, the human drive to build and create, juxtaposed against the relentless power of nature. The artifacts recovered from Dvarka further illuminate the lives of its ancient inhabitants. Pottery shards, stone anchors, and remnants of structures suggest trade, craftsmanship, and a settled, complex lifestyle. Some findings indicate connections with distant regions, hinting at maritime networks that facilitated exchange of goods, ideas, and cultural practices. The presence of carefully constructed stone walls and foundations implies knowledge of engineering and architecture, reflecting a society capable of sustained urban planning. These discoveries, though incomplete, reveal a community whose achievements have been largely obscured by the passage of time, the tides, and the accumulation of centuries of sediment. The mystery deepens when considering the interplay between oral tradition and archaeological evidence. Local legends, passed down through generations, describe the rise and fall of Dvarka, sometimes embellishing the grandeur or dramatizing the submersion. Oral history, in this sense, becomes a repository of human memory, preserving fragments of truth long after physical traces have disappeared. The contrast between tangible ruins beneath the sea and the ephemeral stories told on land highlights a recurring theme in unsolved archaeological mysteries. Civilizations do not vanish entirely. They linger in memory, myth, and subtle traces that defy easy interpretation. Dvarka exemplifies this delicate balance between loss and preservation, fact and legend. The site also raises questions about ancient maritime knowledge and adaptation. Constructing and maintaining a city along the coastline, particularly one susceptible to flooding and tidal changes, would have required an understanding of both environment and technology. The layout of streets, structures, and water management systems suggests a sophisticated awareness of hydrology and urban planning. How such knowledge was developed, transmitted, and ultimately lost adds another layer of intrigue. Unlike land-based ruins, submerged cities like Dvarka are largely invisible, leaving researchers to piece together clues from sonar imaging, diving explorations, and scattered artifacts, a process that mirrors the careful detective work central to archaeology. Dvarka's allure also lies in its capacity to bridge disparate worlds, the mythological, the historical, and the archaeological. It exists as a testament to human imagination, ambition, and ingenuity, reminding us that the line between legend and reality is often subtle. The city prompts reflection on the ways in which civilizations can vanish from the landscape, yet endure in human consciousness. The mystery of Dvarka is not merely about ruins beneath the sea. It is about the persistence of human memory, the capacity of stories to preserve knowledge, and the potential for material evidence to reconnect us with forgotten pasts. As we consider Dvarka, it is impossible to ignore the broader patterns it represents. Across the world, coastal settlements have risen and fallen, submerged beneath rising seas, altered by earthquakes, or erased by shifting rivers. Dvarka is one among many such places, a reminder that the planet itself is an active participant in human history, shaping, erasing, and preserving civilizations according to forces far larger than individual human endeavors. This perspective shifts the narrative from one of loss to one of continuity. Even in submersion, these cities offer a story, a voice, a puzzle that connects us to our ancestors and to the enduring mysteries of human ingenuity. From the waters off India's coast, the narrative gradually opens toward broader patterns of monumental construction, both on land and beneath the waves. Just as Göbekli Tepe, the Nazca Lines, and the Moai challenge our assumptions about the limits of human achievement, Dvarka challenges our understanding of memory, resilience, and the interplay of myth and material reality. The submerged city invites a slow, reflective contemplation, a reminder that the human impulse to build, to create, and to leave a lasting mark persists even in the face of nature's immense, sometimes overwhelming, forces. Dvarka leaves us with a lingering sense of quiet awe. Its partially hidden streets, stone walls, and fragments of everyday life evoke the presence of a civilization that flourished, adapted, and ultimately receded beneath the waves, yet continues to whisper its story across millennia. The mystery is not fully solvable, nor is it intended to be. It is an invitation to dwell in wonder, to appreciate the delicate balance between human endeavor and the vast forces of the natural world. As our journey continues, we move from these submerged secrets to the wider pattern of pyramids across continents, exploring the recurring impulse of humanity to create monumental structures that endure far beyond the lifespans of their creators. Dvarka reminds us that history is both fragile and persistent, a tapestry woven from stone, memory, and the quiet, unyielding pull of mystery. From the submerged city of Dvarka, our journey turns once more to the monumental, this time exploring one of humanity's most recognizable architectural achievements, the pyramid. While the Egyptian pyramids at Giza have long captivated imaginations, they are far from the only examples of triangular structures erected by ancient civilizations. From the step pyramids of Mesoamerica to the lesser-known Nubian pyramids of Sudan, and even to the megalithic temples of Indonesia, pyramids appear across continents and epochs, a recurring expression of human ambition, ritual, and ingenuity. Their proliferation raises profound questions. Are these constructions the result of independent innovation, or do they suggest a transmission of knowledge and ideas across vast distances and cultures? The Egyptian pyramids, built primarily during the Old and Middle Kingdom periods, are perhaps the most famous. These structures, especially the Great Pyramid of Khufu, exhibit precise engineering, remarkable alignment with cardinal points, and complex internal chambers. They served as tombs for pharaohs, combining practical function with deep spiritual symbolism. Yet, when we shift our gaze to Mesoamerica, we encounter pyramids with different forms and purposes. The Mayan and Aztec civilizations erected step pyramids, often crowned with temples, serving as ceremonial centers rather than tombs. Despite differences in construction and function, both regions share a fascination with monumental geometry, a drive to reach skyward, and an intent to communicate with the divine. This convergence is striking, raising questions about whether similar problems, ritual, social organization, and cosmology, inevitably led humans to similar solutions, or if there is evidence of cultural transmission lost to time. The Nubian pyramids of Sudan present another layer of this puzzle. Built by the Kingdom of Kush, these pyramids are smaller and steeper than their Egyptian counterparts, yet they share clear architectural and symbolic elements. Their presence highlights the interplay between regional adaptation and continuity of cultural ideas. Unlike the Egyptian pyramids, these structures were constructed in a later period, showing how architectural forms can be reinterpreted, adapted, and localized while retaining a connection to an earlier model. Across these examples, we see the persistence of the pyramid as both an architectural solution and a symbolic form, a testament to its universal resonance in human societies. Even further afield, in Indonesia and other parts of Southeast Asia, Megalithic structures arranged in pyramid-like forms suggest a similar impulse toward monumental construction. These structures, often built from stacked stone or earth, functioned as ritual sites or territorial markers. Their construction required considerable coordination, planning, and labor, reflecting an understanding of engineering principles and social organization. While less refined than the stonework of Egypt or Mesoamerica, these sites demonstrate that the pyramid form, a geometric, stable, and monumental shape, resonated with human imagination in multiple contexts. The recurrence of this shape suggests a deep, perhaps instinctive, human attraction to structures that embody permanence, order, and cosmic significance. One of the most intriguing questions raised by pyramids across the world is the possibility of shared knowledge. While the idea of ancient transoceanic contact remains controversial, the similarities in form, orientation, and symbolic function cannot be entirely dismissed. Could there have been networks of exchange that transmitted architectural ideas, spiritual concepts, or astronomical observations? Or are these parallels the product of convergent evolution, arising independently as humans faced similar challenges of monumentality, ritual, and cosmic alignment? The question itself is a quiet invitation to ponder the ingenuity and adaptability of ancient minds and the ways in which human societies, even when separated by oceans and mountains, arrived at comparable expressions of ambition and reverence. Pyramids also invite reflection on the interplay between mathematics, astronomy, and spirituality. Many pyramids are aligned with cardinal points, solstices, or celestial bodies, suggesting an understanding of cycles, time, and cosmology. The act of construction becomes a physical manifestation of knowledge, a tangible record of intellectual achievement as well as cultural aspiration. The precision evident in these structures highlights that monumental architecture is not simply about size. It is about embedding meaning into form, integrating engineering, symbolism, and observation into a coherent whole. Across continents, pyramids become more than tombs or temples. They're expressions of a human desire to understand, mark, and interact with the cosmos. The labor and coordination required to build pyramids speak to the social complexity of these civilizations. Enormous human effort, organization, and planning were necessary, reflecting social hierarchies, shared purpose, and collective vision. From mobilizing workers to quarrying stone, transporting materials, and arranging precise alignments, these projects were acts of cooperation at a scale that still inspires awe today. Pyramids, in this sense, serve as monuments not only to rulers or deities, but to human ingenuity and the capacity for collective achievement. They demonstrate that even in societies without modern technology, humans could manipulate their environment on a grand scale, leaving enduring marks on the landscape. The recurrence of pyramids across regions also highlights contrasts between permanence and impermanence, isolation and connectivity. While the Egyptian pyramids have endured largely intact, Mesoamerican step pyramids have been weathered by time, climate, and human intervention. Some Nubian pyramids were partially destroyed or repurposed over centuries. Yet, in every case, the geometric form persists as a testament to human aspiration. This interplay between endurance and decay is a recurring theme in archaeological mystery. Structures may fade, be submerged, or be destroyed, yet their conceptual and symbolic resonance persists, echoing across generations. From the pattern of pyramids, we begin to recognize a broader human impulse, the desire to leave behind monuments that transcend ordinary existence. Just as Göbekli Tepe, the Nazca Lines, the Moai, and Dvarka reflect the urge to communicate across time, pyramids embody the aspiration to mark presence, power, and belief in forms that endure. The repetition of this architectural motif across continents illustrates a universal dialogue between humans and the landscape, between individual ambition and collective purpose, and between the temporal and the eternal. Pyramids are simultaneously functional, symbolic, and aspirational, bridging material reality with spiritual intent. As we leave the world of pyramids, the narrative begins to shift toward anomalies, artifacts that seem out of place, defying timelines, and challenging assumptions. The transition moves from monumental, obvious human achievements to subtler, portable, and equally puzzling traces of past ingenuity. Pyramids, in this sense, prepare us to consider the smaller, often enigmatic objects that reveal the unexpected breadth and depth of human history. They remind us that whether in stone, sand, or submerged ruins, humanity has consistently sought to reach beyond the immediate, leaving behind structures, symbols, and traces that continue to invite reflection and wonder. The study of pyramids across the world leaves us with both awe and curiosity, reinforcing the quiet realization that human creativity, adaptability, and aspiration are more interconnected and universal than we might initially perceive. Each structure is a chapter in a larger story, and together, they encourage the patient listener to contemplate the extraordinary capabilities of ancient civilizations, as well as the enduring mysteries that link them across time and space. From the grand pyramids that punctuate continents, our journey shifts to a more intimate scale. Objects small enough to hold in one hand, yet profound enough to challenge our understanding of history. These are the out-of-place artifacts, anomalies that seem to exist at odds with the timeline of human development. Unlike monumental structures that announce themselves across landscapes, these items are subtle, often overlooked, yet their implications are striking. They invite us to pause, to question, and to consider that human ingenuity may have reached further, sooner, and in ways we have yet to fully comprehend. One of the most famous examples of these anomalies is the so-called Baghdad battery, a clay jar containing a copper cylinder and iron rod, dating roughly to 250 BCE. Some researchers speculate that it could have functioned as a primitive electrochemical cell capable of generating small amounts of electricity. While skeptics argue that it may have been used for storage or ritual purposes, the mere possibility of a technologically advanced device existing centuries before formal studies of electricity is tantalizing. The artifact embodies the tension between evidence and interpretation, inviting quiet reflection on the limits of ancient knowledge and the imagination required to see the world as our ancestors might have. Equally enigmatic are the ancient metal objects sometimes discovered in unexpected contexts. Consider the small iron or brass items found embedded in rock formations that, according to conventional dating, predate known metallurgy in the region. These impossible objects disrupt the neat timelines archaeologists often rely on, suggesting that either our dating methods are incomplete or that human innovation is far more complex than previously assumed. Each such discovery forces a reconsideration of what we define as possible, revealing gaps in the historical record where ingenuity may have flourished in ways lost to the centuries. Another category of out-of-place artifacts is the carved or inscribed objects whose craftsmanship or symbolism seems ahead of their time. For instance, intricately detailed carvings, astronomical instruments, or mechanical models sometimes appear in contexts that suggest a technological sophistication unexpected for their era. The Antikythera mechanism, for example, an ancient Greek device capable of predicting celestial events, demonstrates that advanced understanding can exist in periods we often consider primitive. These objects challenge assumptions, blending science, art, and spirituality into forms that continue to puzzle modern observers. They remind us that the past is not linear or uniform. Human cultures evolve in unpredictable, sometimes astonishing ways. The mystery of these artifacts is compounded by the circumstances of their discovery. Many have been found in locations far removed from known trade routes or centers of civilization, raising questions about how such knowledge or technology was transmitted. Did isolated cultures independently arrive at similar innovations? Or were ideas traveling across continents in ways we have yet to reconstruct? The artifacts themselves are silent witnesses, offering clues without explanation, inviting us to imagine the hands, minds, and societies that created them. In their silence lies both frustration and fascination, a quiet tension that drives further inquiry and reflection. Out-of-place artifacts also prompt reflection on the nature of historical interpretation. Modern archaeology relies on context, stratigraphy, carbon dating, and association with other finds to build narratives. When an object seems to defy this context, it forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. Are we missing evidence, misreading timelines, or underestimating human capability? Perhaps the most important lesson is the humility required in interpreting the past, the recognition that certainty is rare and that anomalies are invitations to think differently, to expand the scope of inquiry, and to acknowledge that history is more intricate than any single framework can fully capture. The intrigue of these artifacts is heightened by the contrast they create with more familiar findings. While most discoveries fit neatly into a story of linear progress, from simple tools to complex societies, out-of-place artifacts are reminders that human history is not a straight line. They are interruptions in the narrative, subtle disturbances in the sediment of time that demand attention. Like whispers from the past, they hint at lost knowledge, forgotten experiments, or alternative paths of development that may have existed alongside what we now consider mainstream history. Some of these anomalies also hint at the blending of practical and symbolic purposes. An object might serve as both a tool and a ritualistic item, a combination that modern observers often find perplexing. In these cases, interpretation becomes as much an art as a science, requiring sensitivity to cultural context, symbolic meaning, and the limits of material evidence. These artifacts challenge us to consider that human innovation may have operated on multiple levels simultaneously, integrating technology, spirituality, and aesthetics in ways that defy modern categories. The broader significance of out-of-place artifacts lies not only in their ability to challenge assumptions, but in their power to expand imagination. They encourage us to ask, what else might humanity have accomplished that has been lost? How many experiments, inventions, or cultural practices have disappeared beneath the weight of time, leaving only faint traces? Each object, no matter how small, acts as a bridge between the known and the unknown, between the past we can document and the mysteries that endure. In this sense, these artifacts are essential companions on a journey through history, grounding curiosity while reminding us of its limits. As our exploration of these enigmatic objects concludes, the narrative begins to shift toward the larger patterns they suggest: civilizations that have vanished, cultures that have left partial traces, and the stories embedded in myths and oral traditions. From these tangible anomalies, we move to the broader contemplation of lost civilizations, those whose memory is preserved in fragments, legends, and scattered ruins. Out-of-place artifacts, in their quiet defiance of expectation, prepare the mind for this transition, illustrating that the past is often stranger and more complex than we can easily imagine. Through these small, puzzling objects, we are reminded that human history is not merely a sequence of well-documented events. It is a tapestry woven from achievements, experiments, successes, and failures, many of which leave only faint echoes. Out-of-place artifacts invite patience, reflection, and humility, quietly urging us to recognize the full scope of human creativity and the enduring mysteries that continue to whisper across the millennia. From individual artifacts that defy chronological expectation, our journey widens to consider entire civilizations that seem to have vanished, leaving only whispers beneath the sand, the soil, or the sea. These lost civilizations challenge the tidy narratives of human history, reminding us that the past is far more intricate and fragile than textbooks suggest. Unlike monumental pyramids or statues that still dominate landscapes, these societies often remain hidden, their traces faint, fragmentary, or submerged. Yet even in their absence, they exert a profound pull on our imagination as we seek to reconstruct their stories from scattered ruins, myths, and the subtle echoes of human activity. One of the most compelling examples is the civilization of the Indus Valley, flourishing around 2500 BCE in what is now Pakistan and northwest India. Cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa display remarkable urban planning, grid layouts, sophisticated drainage systems, and standardized bricks. Despite this complexity, the script of the Indus people remains undeciphered, leaving their political systems, beliefs, and daily lives largely mysterious. Scholars can trace trade networks and technological achievements, yet the reasons for their decline remain uncertain. Was it climate change, river shifts, social upheaval, or a combination of factors? The Indus Valley serves as a reminder that even advanced societies can disappear, leaving behind only subtle footprints for future generations to interpret. Across the oceans, the civilization of the Olmecs, emerging in Mesoamerica around 1500 BCE, presents a similarly enigmatic picture. Known for colossal stone heads and ceremonial centers, the Olmecs exhibit advanced artistry, social organization, and symbolic systems. Yet little is known about their written language or the full extent of their cultural practices. Their influence is evident in subsequent civilizations, such as the Maya and Aztec, suggesting that even as civilizations vanish, their ideas can endure, transmitted through cultural memory. The Olmecs exemplify the paradox of human history. A civilization can leave a profound mark on the world while remaining elusive in its origins, intentions, and ultimate fate. The story of the Minoans on Crete adds another layer to our exploration. Flourishing between 2700 and 1450 BCE, they built complex palaces, sophisticated plumbing systems, and vibrant frescoes. Yet the sudden decline of their civilization, possibly triggered by the eruption of Thera, Santorini, or subsequent invasions, transformed their cities into archaeological puzzles. Frescoes depict daily life, rituals, and maritime activities, yet the language and the full spectrum of their culture remain partially inaccessible due to undeciphered scripts. The Minoans highlight the delicate interplay of natural disaster, human society, and cultural memory, reminding us that civilizations are vulnerable to both internal and external forces. Submerged cities, like the previously explored Varka, further illustrate the fragility of human settlement and the mysteries that can lie hidden beneath water. Coastal civilizations often flourished near rivers, deltas, or seas, taking advantage of fertile lands and trade routes. Yet these same environments expose them to floods, earthquakes, and rising sea levels, which could erase settlements almost entirely. Archaeology underwater requires specialized techniques, making the discovery of such sites rarer and often incomplete. The partial preservation of these civilizations adds an enigmatic quality. The physical evidence is real, tangible, yet fragmentary, leaving room for interpretation, speculation, and wonder. Lost civilizations also invite consideration of the intangible legacies they leave behind. Even when physical structures vanish, stories, myths, and oral traditions can preserve cultural memory. Legends of Atlantis, the 10 lost tribes, or submerged kingdoms often carry kernels of historical truth, disguised in metaphor and allegory. These narratives reflect human efforts to understand loss, survival, and continuity, preserving the essence of cultures that might otherwise be forgotten. In this way, memory and myth act as repositories for human history, complementing archaeological evidence and highlighting the multifaceted ways civilizations endure. One striking feature of lost civilizations is their often surprising technological and artistic achievements, challenging assumptions about linear progress. From urban planning in the Indus Valley to the maritime expertise of the Minoans, these societies reveal sophisticated understanding of engineering, agriculture, and trade, often at a level previously thought to emerge much later. The presence of such advanced skills in unexpected times and places resonates with the theme of out-of-place artifacts, suggesting that human innovation is rarely uniform or predictable. Lost civilizations, like these artifacts, serve as reminders of ingenuity that can flourish in isolation, environmental challenge, or unrecognized brilliance. The disappearance of civilizations also emphasizes the dynamic relationship between humans and their environment. Deforestation, soil depletion, climatic shifts, or natural disasters could hasten decline, revealing the fragility of even highly organized societies. Yet human resilience often shines through an adaptation, migration, or cultural transmission. Traces of lost civilizations persist in successor cultures, architectural techniques, or shared symbols, demonstrating that disappearance does not equal oblivion. These echoes remind us that the past is layered and interconnected, with vanished societies contributing threads to the larger tapestry of human history. As we move from these lost civilizations, the narrative gently prepares the listener for the exploration of secret knowledge encoded in art, architecture, and symbolism, a theme that connects tangible ruins with abstract human understanding. The patterns, symbols, and anomalies uncovered in these vanished societies set the stage for considering the deeper mysteries that humans sought to preserve. The mathematical, astronomical, and spiritual knowledge often hidden in plain sight. Lost civilizations illustrate that history is not merely a record of what survives, but a puzzle in which absence, fragment, and mystery are as meaningful as presence. In reflecting on lost civilizations, we recognize a subtle lesson in humility and wonder. Their ruins, scattered artifacts, and enduring myths teach that human achievement is both extraordinary and vulnerable, often existing in delicate balance with forces beyond control. Yet even in disappearance, these societies leave a silent invitation to explore, to imagine, and to appreciate the ingenuity, creativity, and complexity of human culture across time. They embody the quiet tension between what is known and what remains hidden, a theme that echoes across every mystery we have explored, from stone pillars and pyramids to submerged cities and anomalous artifacts. Lost civilizations remind us that history is not a linear tale of continuous progress, but a complex interplay of creation, survival, and disappearance. The echoes beneath sand and sea whisper of societies that flourished, adapted, and vanished, leaving traces that invite patient observation and reflective thought. By listening carefully to these echoes, we can begin to sense the full depth of human ingenuity, imagination, and resilience, setting the stage for the exploration of symbolic mysteries and coded knowledge that follow. These civilizations, though vanished, remain present in the questions they raise, the stories they inspire, and the enduring allure of the unknown. From the echoes of lost civilizations, our journey turns to the subtler realm of symbols and coded messages embedded within art, architecture, and objects across time. Throughout history, humans have sought to communicate not only through words, but through forms, patterns, and arrangements that encode meaning in ways both obvious and hidden. Whether etched into stone, painted on walls, or arranged in landscapes, these symbols often reveal beliefs, cosmologies, and knowledge that might otherwise be lost to time. In the quiet contemplation of these coded forms, we encounter the interplay between the tangible and the abstract, between human intention and the enigma left for future generations to decipher. One striking example lies in the geometric precision of sacred architecture. Temples, pyramids, and ceremonial complexes around the world often incorporate alignments with celestial bodies, cardinal points, or seasonal cycles. In Egypt, the pyramids of Giza align with Orion's belt, while the Great Sphinx faces the sunrise at the spring equinox, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Similarly, Mesoamerican pyramids often correspond to solstices and equinoxes, reflecting an integration of ritual, cosmology, and timekeeping. These alignments are not merely practical. They're symbolic acts, embedding the natural rhythms of the universe into human constructions. Through these coded arrangements, ancient societies communicated with both the heavens and their descendants, preserving knowledge in a form that transcends words. Symbolism extends beyond monumental structures into smaller artifacts, where patterns, motifs, and carvings encode cultural meaning. The Indus Valley Civilization, for instance, left behind seals decorated with animals, geometric shapes, and mysterious inscriptions. Though the script remains undeciphered, the repeated motifs suggest shared cultural or religious significance, possibly conveying identity, authority, or spiritual concepts. Similarly, the intricate carvings of the Minoans, Olmecs, and other societies often blend naturalistic imagery with abstract designs, hinting at cosmological or ritual knowledge embedded in artistry. Each symbol becomes a message across time, a subtle communication that invites interpretation and reflection. Even landscapes themselves sometimes serve as repositories of coded knowledge. The Nazca lines, previously explored, are perhaps the most dramatic example. Colossal geoglyphs that convey symbolic meaning only from above, creating a hidden dialogue between the human hand and the sky. The scale, orientation, and repetition of shapes suggest purpose beyond mere decoration, perhaps ritual, astronomy, or social cohesion. The desert floor becomes a canvas for encoded messages, preserved by environment and carefully crafted by human intention. Like many symbolic acts, the Nazca lines operate in the space between visibility and concealment, revealing their full meaning only to those who know how to read them. Mathematics and proportion also serve as a subtle coding system in ancient art and architecture. The use of the golden ratio, Pythagorean triples, and other mathematical relationships appears across civilizations, from Egyptian temples to Greek statues, and even in the layout of some Mesoamerican cities. These patterns may encode not only aesthetic ideals, but cosmological or spiritual principles, reflecting a worldview in which harmony, proportion, and order are deeply intertwined with human and divine experience. By examining these relationships, we glimpse the intellectual sophistication of cultures that communicated complex ideas through form rather than language alone. Religious and spiritual symbolism often overlaps with these codes, linking human experience to broader cosmological principles. The Moai of Easter Island, for example, embody ancestral reverence and social hierarchy through stylized forms and placement. Each statue carries both material and symbolic weight, communicating identity, protection, and continuity. Similarly, the Sphinx's lion body and human face combine natural and human attributes to convey power, wisdom, and guardianship. These symbolic choices transform static objects into carriers of meaning, enabling the communication of ideas across generations, even as language and context shift over time. Hidden symbolism can also serve as a deliberate safeguard of knowledge. In some cases, inscriptions, patterns, or architectural alignments may have been intended to be understood only by initiates, priests, or select members of society. This creates a layered communication system, where the general population might perceive one meaning while a deeper, more esoteric significance remains accessible only to the few. Such practices illustrate that knowledge in ancient societies was often encoded deliberately, a subtle interplay between secrecy, power, and preservation. These hidden layers of meaning contribute to the enduring allure of mystery, inviting contemporary observers to explore with patience, attention, and imagination. The study of symbols and codes emphasizes the continuity of human curiosity and ingenuity. From monumental alignments to minute carvings, these forms reveal a consistent impulse to encode knowledge, beliefs, and aspirations in ways that endure. They remind us that history is not only recorded in events or artifacts, but in the subtle relationships, patterns, and intentionalities embedded in human creations. Every alignment, motif, or proportion represents a conversation across time, a bridge connecting the present to the consciousness of those who came before. As we consider these hidden messages, a pattern emerges. Humans have consistently sought to communicate beyond the immediate and tangible, whether through colossal stone circles, massive pyramids, detailed carvings, or vast geoglyphs. Each act of coding, whether monumental or minute, reflects a desire to reach across time, to transmit understanding, and to preserve cultural memory. The interplay between visibility and concealment, between form and meaning, invites us to approach history not only as a record of events, but as a repository of intentional communication, waiting to be read with patience and curiosity. From the contemplation of these symbols, the narrative naturally moves toward the mysteries of ancient technology and engineering, where encoded knowledge becomes manifest in functional, often astonishing feats. The study of symbols sets the stage for understanding how human ingenuity was expressed not only aesthetically or spiritually, but practically, in ways that continue to challenge our assumptions. Symbols and codes serve as the connective tissue between human imagination, cultural memory, and technological achievement, bridging abstract intention with concrete accomplishment. Symbols and codes leave us with a quiet, persistent invitation to observe carefully, think deeply, and recognize that meaning often lies beneath the surface. By attuning ourselves to these subtle messages, we begin to understand the layered complexity of human history, a world in which art, architecture, and artifacts communicate across centuries. In this space between clarity and enigma, we find the essence of mystery itself, the enduring impulse of civilizations to speak across time, and the patient journey of those who seek to listen. From the hidden messages and symbols embedded in art and architecture, our exploration shifts toward the tangible ingenuity of ancient engineering marvels. Across continents and centuries, human societies demonstrated an extraordinary capacity to manipulate materials, organize labor, and achieve feats of construction that continue to inspire awe. These structures, whether carved from stone, built from clay, or shaped from earth, reveal not only technical skill, but a profound understanding of geometry, mechanics, and environmental adaptation. The mystery lies not simply in their existence, but in the methods by which they were realized, often with tools and technologies that appear primitive by modern standards. Consider the pyramids of Egypt once more, whose precision has captivated engineers and archaeologists alike. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, constructed with over 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, exemplifies remarkable alignment with the cardinal points and near-perfect leveling across the base. Scholars debate how such precision was achieved using copper tools, ramps, and human labor, as conventional explanations leave many questions unresolved. Similarly, the pyramids of Mesoamerica, though differing in form and purpose, demonstrate advanced knowledge of foundation stability, proportion, and architectural endurance. These structures reflect the interplay of mathematical understanding, societal organization, and ritual significance, reminding us that engineering in antiquity was inseparable from culture and belief. The Moai of Easter Island provide another striking example of sophisticated engineering in isolation. Carving colossal stone figures from volcanic tuff and transporting them across rugged terrain required not only physical labor, but ingenuity in leverage, coordination, and logistics. Some researchers suggest the statues were walked upright, using ropes and careful balance, a method that transforms what seems impossible into feasible with human ingenuity. These feats underscore that engineering challenges were often approached holistically, integrating observation of the environment, material properties, and communal effort. The contrast between isolation and technical achievement emphasizes the universality of human creativity in problem-solving. Ancient bridges, aqueducts, and roads further reveal the sophistication of engineering across civilizations. Roman aqueducts, stretching for miles, maintained precise gradients to channel water into cities, demonstrating a command of surveying and hydraulics. Similarly, the Incan road system in the Andes traversed rugged mountains, deep valleys, and unstable terrain, employing retaining walls, terraces, and suspension bridges made of natural fibers. These projects required detailed planning, material knowledge, and adaptive techniques suited to local geography. They reflect a pattern repeated across cultures, engineering as a dialogue with nature, solving practical problems while creating structures of enduring stability and elegance. Stone circles and megalithic sites, such as Stonehenge, highlight another dimension of engineering marvels: astronomical and ceremonial function. The precise arrangement of massive stones, their alignment with solstices and lunar cycles, and the transportation of stones from distant quarries indicate a sophisticated grasp of geometry, observation, and planning. While the exact techniques remain speculative, experimental archaeology has demonstrated that coordinated human effort, simple tools, and ingenuity could achieve these results. The enduring mystery lies not only in the methods, but also in the purpose, inviting reflection on the ways engineering, ritual, and cosmology intertwined in human societies. Submerged constructions, such as the city of Dvarka, illustrate the interplay between environmental forces and engineering adaptation. Coastal civilizations had to contend with tides, erosion, and shifting sediments, yet they built structures that endured, sometimes partially preserved beneath water for millennia. Stone foundations, fortifications, and harbor installations suggest careful planning, understanding of hydrodynamics, and resilient construction techniques. Such projects expand our appreciation for ancient engineering, highlighting adaptability, foresight, and the ability to harmonize human activity with challenging natural conditions. Engineering marvels also reflect social organization and labor management. Coordinating large-scale construction, whether a pyramid, aqueduct, or monumental statue, required planning, hierarchy, and allocation of resources. These projects were not only technical achievements, but also social feats, demonstrating the capacity of human societies to mobilize collective effort towards shared goals. In many cases, the scale of labor and coordination reveals the societal importance of the structures, intertwining practical function with spiritual, political, or symbolic meaning. The human element, planning, leadership, and collaboration, is inseparable from the technical achievement. The mystery deepens when considering structures whose construction defies conventional expectations. Some megalithic sites, advanced metalwork, or massive stone alignments suggest techniques that remain poorly understood, leaving room for speculation about lost knowledge, innovative approaches, or methods that were never documented. While experimental archaeology offers insights, there remains an aura of wonder around the precision, scale, and durability achieved by ancient builders. These feats challenge modern assumptions about the capabilities of pre-industrial societies and highlight the ingenuity that humans have consistently applied across time and geography. Beyond functionality, ancient engineering often conveys symbolic and cosmological significance. Structures were aligned with celestial bodies, proportioned according to sacred geometries, or arranged to reflect social hierarchies and spiritual beliefs. The engineering process itself became a medium for cultural expression, transforming practical labor into a form of communication across generations. This integration of purpose, precision, and symbolism is a hallmark of ancient ingenuity, demonstrating that engineering was not merely technical, but an embodiment of human thought, belief, and aspiration. As we reflect on these marvels, it becomes clear that engineering in antiquity was both practical and poetic, solving real-world problems while leaving a legacy of awe and mystery. From the pyramids and moai to aqueducts, roads, and submerged cities, each structure invites contemplation of the skills, knowledge, and imagination required to create enduring works. The contrast between ancient techniques and modern assumptions highlights the universality of human creativity and the enduring appeal of unsolved questions. How were these feats accomplished, and what can they teach us about the societies that produced them? Ancient engineering marvels leave us with a profound sense of connection and humility. They remind us that human ingenuity has long been capable of extraordinary achievements, often in contexts of limited technology, isolation, or environmental challenge. They challenge us to recognize the intelligence, planning, and vision of civilizations that existed centuries or millennia before our own, leaving behind structures that continue to inspire awe and curiosity. By studying these achievements, we glimpse the ingenuity, resilience, and ambition that have defined humanity across time. deepening our appreciation for both what is known and what remains mysterious in the story of our past. From the mastery of engineering on Earth, our exploration shifts upward toward the heavens, where many ancient civilizations looked to the sky for guidance, meaning, and inspiration. Across continents, evidence reveals that humans not only observed celestial bodies, but encoded this knowledge into their monuments, aligning structures with stars, solstices, equinoxes, and planetary movements. These celestial alignments demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and a desire to situate human existence within a larger cosmic order. The mystery lies not merely in technical precision, but in the intent behind these alignments, why certain points in the sky were chosen, and how they influenced ritual, agriculture, and culture. In Egypt, the orientation of the pyramids at Giza is a striking example. The Great Pyramid aligns almost perfectly with the cardinal points, and some researchers suggest that its shafts were oriented toward specific stars, possibly serving as conduits connecting the pharaohs with celestial deities. Similarly, the Sphinx is oriented toward the rising sun at the spring equinox, reinforcing the connection between monument, ritual, and cosmic cycles. These alignments suggest that ancient architects and astronomers observed the heavens with careful attention, translating their observations into enduring stone. The precision achieved, without modern instruments, continues to captivate scientists, historians, and casual observers alike. Further east, in Mesoamerica, civilizations such as the Maya and Aztec constructed pyramids and observatories aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles. El Castillo at Chichen Itza, for instance, creates a shadow effect during equinoxes that resembles a serpent descending the staircase, a phenomenon deeply intertwined with mythology and ritual. These alignments were not arbitrary, but encoded both timekeeping and spiritual meaning, merging practical knowledge with symbolic expression. Across the Americas, astronomy guided agricultural cycles, ceremonial events, and governance, reflecting a worldview in which the movements of the heavens were inseparable from daily life and cultural identity. Even in Europe, stone circles and megalithic sites reveal remarkable astronomical awareness. Stonehenge in England is aligned to the solstices, marking the midsummer sunrise and midwinter sunset. Other sites in Brittany, Ireland, and Scandinavia exhibit similar correlations between stones and celestial events. The placement of these megaliths suggests careful observation, long-term tracking of cycles, and a desire to embed cosmic knowledge into communal spaces. These monuments functioned as observatories, calendars, and ritual sites, linking human activity to celestial rhythms. The repeated presence of such structures across distant regions raises questions about parallel development and shared human fascination with the sky. Celestial alignments were not limited to monumental architecture. They also appeared in smaller artifacts, artworks, and geoglyphs. The Nazca lines, for example, include figures that some researchers suggest correspond with star patterns or astronomical markers. Even portable objects, such as carved stones or ceremonial items, sometimes encode lunar or solar cycles, indicating that celestial observation permeated multiple levels of society. This integration of astronomy into both large-scale monuments and everyday objects reflects a worldview in which the heavens and human life were deeply intertwined, creating a cultural rhythm that guided ritual, agriculture, and governance. The sophistication of these alignments demonstrates an understanding of time, movement, and geometry. Ancient observers tracked the rising and setting of stars, calculated solstices, and predicted celestial events, translating observations into permanent structures. These alignments were not accidental. They required repeated observation over generations, careful measurement, and precise execution. The result is a lasting dialogue between human ingenuity and cosmic cycles, preserved in stone, earth, and space. The meticulous planning evident in these alignments challenges modern assumptions about ancient knowledge, revealing intellectual achievements often underestimated in historical narratives. Celestial alignments also carry symbolic and spiritual significance. Stars, planets, and sun cycles were often associated with deities, natural forces, or the passage of souls. Aligning a temple, pyramid, or stone circle with the sky could express cosmic harmony, facilitate ritual efficacy, or serve as a guide for the community's understanding of life and death. These alignments transform monuments into tools for both practical measurement and spiritual connection, blending observation with belief in ways that are both functional and poetic. The sky became a canvas for human aspiration, a medium through which civilizations connected the earthly and the divine. By contemplating these ancient observatories, we gain insight into the continuity of human curiosity. Across cultures and continents, civilizations independently observed the heavens, developed knowledge of astronomical cycles, and encoded this understanding into their environments. The contrast between remote locations, differing cultures, and convergent outcomes underscores a universal human impulse to seek meaning in the patterns above, to understand time, and to link human experience with the cosmos. Celestial alignments remind us that curiosity, observation, and creativity are constants across history, transcending geography and circumstance. As we prepare to move from the observation of the skies to the mysteries of ritual and spiritual practice on Earth, celestial alignments serve as a bridge. They illustrate the interplay of knowledge, belief, and human ambition, linking the tangible accomplishments of engineering with the intangible realms of culture, ritual, and imagination. Ancient observatories and alignments invite patience, reflection, and wonder, offering glimpses of human ingenuity that resonate across centuries. By following the lines of the stars etched into monuments, we come closer to understanding how past civilizations perceive themselves in relation to the vast universe, and how the pursuit of knowledge and meaning shaped the world they left behind. From the celestial observations that guided ancient societies, our exploration moves inward into the human experience of ritual and sacred space. Across time and geography, civilizations have invested enormous effort into constructing places that serve as bridges between the earthly and the divine. Temples, ceremonial platforms, stone circles, and shrines were not merely functional. They embodied belief systems, social hierarchies, and cosmological understanding. These sacred spaces offer insight into how humans experienced and interpreted the world, blending architecture, symbolism, and ritual into environments charged with meaning. The moai of Easter Island, for example, were positioned on Ahu platforms in ways that reinforce social and spiritual hierarchies. Each statue, often facing inland, watched over villages and descendants, suggesting that the statues were more than monuments. They were guardians and intermediaries between the living and ancestral spirits. The alignment, size, and placement of the moai indicate a careful orchestration of ritual space, demonstrating how environment, belief, and societal organization intersected in physical form. Even today, the silent presence of these figures evokes a sense of ceremony, inviting reflection on human devotion and the enduring power of symbolic construction. In Egypt, temples and monumental complexes reveal similar layers of spiritual and ritual intent. The orientation, proportions, and decoration of structures, such as Karnak or Luxor Temple, were designed to facilitate religious practice, reinforce pharaonic authority, and connect the terrestrial with the celestial. Hieroglyphs, reliefs, and statues within these spaces conveyed cosmological narratives, transforming the temple itself into a narrative medium. The architecture dictated movement, experience, and perception, guiding worshippers through a choreographed spiritual journey. Here, construction and belief were inseparable, each informing the other to create spaces that embodied human understanding of the sacred. Mesoamerican civilizations, including the Maya and Aztec, also constructed sacred spaces with layered significance. Step pyramids, plazas, and ceremonial platforms functioned as stages for religious rites, astronomical observation, and social cohesion. The placement of these structures reflected both spiritual cosmology and practical needs, connecting human activity to celestial events, seasonal cycles, and agricultural rhythms. Rituals performed atop these pyramids or within adjacent plazas were carefully timed, integrating physical elevation, visual symbolism, and temporal alignment. These sacred spaces transformed architecture into a medium of experience, conveying meaning through structure, scale, and orientation. Stone circles and megalithic complexes across Europe, such as Stonehenge, demonstrate a similar integration of ritual, community, and cosmic awareness. The arrangement of stones, aligned with solstices, served both as a ceremonial focus and as a marker of seasonal cycles, guiding agricultural and social activity. These constructions were not merely functional. They were imbued with spiritual intent, embodying the rhythm of human life in harmony with natural and celestial patterns. The careful selection, transport, and positioning of massive stones suggest a society that valued ritual experience, collective participation, and symbolic continuity. Sacred spaces also extended to urban planning and community organization. Cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, while primarily practical in layout, included public spaces, granaries, and communal structures that may have held ritual significance. Similarly, in Dvarka, submerged foundations hint at temples or ceremonial precincts, suggesting that ritual practice permeated both terrestrial and maritime environments. Across civilizations, ritual spaces reinforced social cohesion, conveyed cultural values, and offered a stage for humans to engage with forces larger than themselves. The design of these sacred spaces often encoded layered meaning. Alignments, dimensions, and symbolism acted as guides for spiritual or cosmological understanding, ensuring that every movement, glance, or act within the space had significance. Ritual architecture was a language of its own, one that could communicate across generations, even as oral traditions and societal structures evolved. This interplay of physical form and spiritual purpose underscores the universality of human creativity, showing that even in disparate cultures, people sought to shape environments that connected them to something beyond the tangible world. Ritual spaces also offer insight into the human experience of mystery and the unknown. They reflect society's awareness of forces beyond immediate comprehension, astronomical patterns, life cycles, mortality, and divine presence, and the desire to make these forces tangible through design, structure, and practice. The careful orchestration of movement, sight lines, and symbolic elements created experiences that were at once communal, spiritual, and intellectually profound. In sacred spaces, architecture becomes a medium for contemplation, awe, and the subtle transmission of knowledge and belief. As we prepare to transition from ritual spaces to the enigma of ancient texts and undeciphered scripts, sacred spaces serve as a bridge. They remind us that human expression often combines function, belief, and mystery, and that the physical environment can encode meaning as effectively as language or artifact. These spaces teach patience, observation, and sensitivity to context, preparing the mind to approach textual and symbolic mysteries with a similar openness. Rituals and sacred spaces leave an enduring impression. They're the stage on which human life intersected with the divine, the cosmos, and community. They reflect ingenuity, belief, and the persistent human desire to understand, celebrate, and endure. In contemplating them, we gain insight not only into ancient societies, but into the universal impulse to create meaning, to structure experience, and to leave traces of the sacred that persist long after civilizations have faded. These spaces, silent yet potent, invite us to listen carefully and consider the depth of human imagination, devotion, and cultural memory. From sacred spaces designed to embody belief and ritual, our exploration turns toward the written word, ancient texts and undeciphered scripts that hold the potential to reveal human thought, knowledge, and culture, yet remain frustratingly elusive. Across the world, countless civilizations left behind inscriptions, codices, and carvings, some fully understood, others still beyond modern comprehension. These texts serve as direct, tangible connections to minds long past, offering insight into daily life, governance, spirituality, and intellectual achievement. Yet when scripts remain undeciphered, they transform into mysteries, silent witnesses to worlds that are only partially accessible, challenging assumptions about the continuity and limits of human knowledge. The Indus Valley script exemplifies this tension. Found on seals, pottery, and small tablets, it consists of abstract symbols, repeated motifs, and apparent linguistic structures, yet no definitive translation exists. Scholars have proposed theories linking it to Dravidian languages, proto-writing systems, or symbolic codes, but none are conclusive. The result is a civilization that is known in detail through urban planning, trade networks, and material culture, yet whose voice is largely absent. The undeciphered script is a reminder that even advanced societies can leave gaps in human understanding, forcing modern observers to rely on inference, context, and imagination to reconstruct meaning. Similarly, the Rongorongo script of Easter Island presents an enduring puzzle. Carved into wooden tablets, it contains glyphs that may encode genealogical, ritual, or astronomical information. Despite numerous attempts at interpretation, its meaning remains unresolved, compounded by the loss of cultural continuity following European contact. Rongorongo illustrates the fragility of knowledge. Without living tradition or interpretive context, even tangible writing can become opaque. The mystery of such scripts emphasizes the complex relationship between language, culture, and memory, showing how the past can be simultaneously present and inaccessible. In the Americas, Mayan hieroglyphs provide a contrasting case. Initially partially undeciphered, decades of scholarly work have revealed the structure, syntax, and meaning of many inscriptions, unlocking history, ritual, and astronomical observations. The gradual revelation of their content demonstrates how persistent study, cross-disciplinary methods, and comparative analysis can restore lost voices. At the same time, undeciphered elements remain, reminding us that even partially understood texts continue to guard secrets, maintaining a sense of wonder and intellectual humility. Beyond these well-known cases, numerous inscriptions and carvings across Europe, Asia, and Africa remain unresolved or controversial. From megalithic symbols in Brittany to mysterious petroglyphs in Siberia, these marks may encode ritual practices, astronomical knowledge, or cultural narratives. Their existence challenges assumptions about literacy, the transmission of knowledge, and the universality of written communication. In many cases, these scripts act as portals into thought worlds that no longer survive in living memory, bridging the tangible and intangible, the known and unknown. The allure of undeciphered scripts lies not only in their content, but in the act of discovery itself. Scholars, linguists, and cryptographers approach them as puzzles, seeking patterns, repetitions, and correspondences with known languages. Each attempt at interpretation is a dialogue with the past, a negotiation between evidence and imagination. The frustration of incompleteness is balanced by the thrill of possibility. Each symbol, each sequence, might unlock a new layer of understanding, offering a glimpse into the cognitive and cultural sophistication of ancient peoples. These texts also highlight the importance of context. Symbols alone rarely convey full meaning. They are intertwined with ritual, geography, and social structures. Without understanding these connections, interpretations remain speculative. The study of undeciphered scripts underscores the holistic nature of archaeology and history. Objects, architecture, and environment must all be considered alongside text to reconstruct past realities. In this sense, undeciphered writing is not a barrier, but an invitation to think broadly, to integrate knowledge across disciplines, and to embrace the uncertainties inherent in exploring the distant past. Finally, ancient texts and undeciphered scripts remind us of the impermanence and fragility of human knowledge. Languages shift, civilizations decline, and the context necessary for understanding may vanish. Yet, even in silence, these inscriptions persist as monuments of human thought, testimony to intellectual curiosity, cultural complexity, and the desire to communicate across time. They occupy the delicate space between presence and absence, offering both insight and mystery, and reinforcing the enduring theme of our journey. That history is as much about questions as answers, about contemplation as resolution. In approaching these ancient texts, we confront a humbling truth. Human creativity, intellect, and expression are vast, often lost, and only partially recoverable. Undeciphered scripts are invitations to patience, reflection, and imagination, challenging us to consider the depth of thought in civilizations long gone. They remind us that history is not a completed narrative, but a living investigation, and that the voices of the past, though obscured, continue to resonate, urging us to listen, explore, and wonder.